computer. So there should now be a button for you to click accept.
Got it. It says got it.
All right, and I'm going to just hit record on the podcast. So I'm going to do our intro. And I think we're about ready. So hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast / YouTube video we're doing. Today we got Bob F., who is someone who's been in GA since I believe 1957, if I'm not mistaken. And as of right now, well, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you mentioned you're 51 years sober.
1970.
Oh, 1970. Okay. And that it comes to the 51 years. So how are you doing today, Bob?
Oh, doing excellent. Really doing well. And it's a beautiful day in southern Florida.
What part of Florida?
Right now, Boynton Beach, Florida.
Okay. So yeah, let's dive right into it. So tell me a little bit about your childhood growing up. Did you have both parents? Was there anything you think that might have helped lead to addiction later on in life?
We were a family of four. I did have both parents. I had one brother. Both my older brothers are dead. Okay, one was a sex addict. Never took care of himself. The other one was a drug addict. Imported drugs, a big drug dealer, had his own hashish name, never took care of himself, and he's dead. My sister is a food addict. She has had the operation on the belly where they do the bypass, where they cut half your stomach out to help her lose weight. And I was a kid who at 13 years of age found out what a racetrack was. Well, yeah, both my parents. My father, he died when I was 19 years of age. And my mother could not handle us. She could not handle us. And the tough story I usually tell is that, on her birthday was December 29th. He died December 29th that night. I went to the racetrack that night. I was 19 years of age. And I got up, I snuck into the house, and I heard him coughing in the bathroom. Probably around 12:30. This one I was living in Brooklyn. And I did not say, "Dad, are you okay?" or anything like that. I did not say that because I had to sneak into my room. And about 4:25 in the morning, I heard my mother screaming, "Sid, Sid." And I woke me up. My sister was the only one in the house. And my father was having a heart attack.
Oh wow.
I went into the house. I into the room. He sleeps in the nude, and I'm trying to get him, punch him on his chest, trying to lift his legs to get the blood to rush to his head, breathing into his mouth. And that was like taking some soda and putting a straw into it and breathing into the straw. He had bubbles, because he had bubbles in his lungs. And my father died in my arms at 19.
That must have been difficult for you.
Well, and then the addiction came out because he was laying upstairs on the floor with a cover over him. And since I was a young kid, I always stole the money out of his pocket. He would put his pants on the doorknob, and I would reach in, and while he was sleeping, I would take money out. And the day that my father died, as he's laying on the floor with a blanket over him, waiting for that funeral home to pick him up, I went into his pockets. I took out every dollar he had. I remember that night at the funeral, I got buried that afternoon on a Sunday. I said, "What do you have to get buried for?" The Giants are playing the Bears today in the championship game. That's the day he was buried. December 29th, 1963. Yeah.
It's amazing that with our addict brain, those are the things we remember. And those are the things, you look back, it was stealing money from your dead father, just going, and then the funeral was kind of interrupted by a game.
No, I remember we having dinner that night. And my mother said, "It's funny, Sid didn't have any money in his pants." Okay, but
did you admit it?
Never. But along the same lines, I was probably 15, 16, and my sister used to have the bank. They used to have a piggy bank, but made out of chalk. You know, you break it, it breaks it. Not chalk, but I don't know what they call that. That you win at Coney Island. And I used to wait till everyone was asleep. I would take a knife and I would pull out the dollar bills. And then when I was finished with the dollar bills, I started pulling out the half dollars when they were around, and the quarters and the nickels and the dimes to rob all the money in my sister's bank. But being a cunning person and a smart person, I put pennies back in the bank because I had to get the weight to be the same so nobody would know. And one day we used to have a cleaning woman who would come once, twice a week, or once every week, or once every 2 weeks. And she knocked over the bank, and that pink piggy bank broke, and there was nothing in there but pennies. And my mother did not look at either of my brothers. They did not look at my sister. They looked at me because they know I was the one who stole that money. So this is how it starts young and stuff like that. But it gets worse. It gets worse, you know. I like to say I had the fever. I had the fever. And my mother could not control any of the boys. She couldn't do it. So she can't control it. Next year, I went into the Army. Oh, what a great move, going to the Army.
How old were you exactly when you went into the Army?
Let's see, 1964, I was 20. My father died when I was 19, I was 20. So I went into the Army and it went crazy. They paid you $78 a month before taxes, so you got $70. And I did my training in Fort Dix. And from there, my gambling escalated. I became a thief. I had a deal at the PX. This woman, you know, they put the stuff in a big bag and they didn't check like they do now. This is not Costco. And they would just look that you had a receipt. And the cigarettes at that point, carton of cigarettes are $2.10. A cigarette in the Army, and I don't smoke. Still don't smoke. I get 20 cartons of cigarettes at a time. She would ring up 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents. 20 times she'd ring up 10 cents and pay $2 for it to the register. And nobody ever checked it. My wall lockers were full of cigarettes. My foot locker was full of cigarettes. It was called Marlboro Country. And I took 100, I was stationed in Washington, D.C., and I'll get back to that, what I was doing there. And I had 180 cartons of cigarettes loaded up in that car. And what happened? I saw my friend's father, and both problem gamblers, and he gave me $360. And I put that money in the bank. But that bank was called Aqueduct National, which is a racetrack. And I lost it all. And my mother lived one.
How fast did you lose it? How did you make big bets? Did you go incrementally?
Well, I bet whatever I had in my pocket, whatever I had in my pocket. And then I looked to find some more money. I mean, and so the 360 was gone. My mother lived one block where I dropped it. Her recent widow, 1 block away. And she says, "What do you go there with the car? What are you doing here?" I said, "I took a drive." I said, "I need money for gas. I need money for tolls to get back to the base." And that's what happened. I was stationed. How this happened, I don't know. I was stationed in Washington after basic training in Fort Dix, which I was a basketball player and waiting for orders. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to play basketball for the team. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", 6'3". I was tough. I was stationed at Pentagon, Washington, D.C., working in the message center, in the office of Chief of Staff of the Army, with a very, very high top secret clearance with a lot of endorsements. How I got that, I don't know. I was brought up on bookmaking charges. That's why I go to racetrack. There are plenty of racetracks in Maryland. I could run off names, but doesn't mean Virginia and West Virginia, all these racetracks. And I had a syndicate. Guys would give me money. And I'd go there in uniform, because if you go in uniform, you don't have to pay admission. How great is that? So I'd run up, and I got dust all over my shoes from the track. And I'd go in there, rush in there for a couple of races we went, and go in there, and they'd look at me, where'd you come from? But I ran a bookmaking operation. And in the Pentagon, they had a pneumatic tube system. And being a message center, you would put them in a case, a plastic thing, and you put them up like that, and you shoom, and it would shoot through the Pentagon.
Okay, I know you're talking like kind of like at the bank when you go to the drive-through, kind of.
That's it. That's it. But when I had to pay guys money, I would say there's a red tube coming, as opposed to a clear glass tube. A red tube is a symbol that a top secret message is coming, going to be dropped on your side of it. Top secret message. And make sure that the right guy was at the drop where it would drop, so he would be able to take out the money. And we once saw a nice bit of money, and the colonel saw me passing money to somebody and making a lot of noise. And they brought me up on bookmaking charges to court-martial me. But I was smart, so smart. And I was living in the barracks then. And all of a sudden, there was a new guy in the barracks. Nobody knew who he was, where he was working, or anything like that. And I knew that it was a plant, that if you would catch us commenting about the gambling or whatever, going to racetrack and the guys together, or playing cards in the barracks, I would be turned in. And for 30, that probably only, since I'm 13, the only 30 days before Gamblers Anonymous that I didn't gamble was because I was risking my life, well, my liberty. I was risking my liberty by not, but I couldn't gamble. So, but after that, it was full speed ahead. Then we go on a couple of, even further, and then I'm now 25, 26, and I was ready to get married.
Did you know at this point that you had a problem, or did you think you're just being a kid doing stupid things?
No,
What was going through your mind?
I knew I never used the word compulsive. A lot of in the program I like to use the word compulsive. I don't like it. I had the fever. I was a problem gambler. I was a problem. This is going to be my living. I would work on a job. I would work 1 year. 1 year I would work, because I knew after 1 year they owed me 2 weeks pay, and they owed me 2 weeks vacation pay. Now I have a whole month's worth of money, a whole month. And that money would make me a professional gambler at the racetrack. And then I found a bookmaker. Who would take my bets. As long as you paid them every week, you take your bets. Basketball, football, baseball, hockey. Oh, by the way, when my father died, it was a Sunday. I was 19. And at 6 o'clock, I'm leaving the house. And they said to me, "Where are you going?" This is the night my father's still warm in that grave. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to the hockey game because the Rangers were playing." And I had season tickets. And I always ran the pool. The pool was in the section where we were, that everybody put it in $1. And I think that 16, 17 players on the team, everybody put in $1. And we wrote the names, a piece of paper of the Rangers who were playing that day. And you would pick out of a hat, you would pick out a player. And if your player was the first one to score a goal for the Rangers, you won the kitty. I said, "Who's going to run it? Who's going to run the pool?" Okay. And my two brothers who were bigger than I am, they had to physically restrain me, take my coat off. You're not going anywhere. The night my father died. Scary story. So this is all young. This is teenager, late teenager.
Yeah, you said you were around 19 or 20. It's just not to sound repetitive, but addiction makes you do stupid things. And you said you even know you had a problem. So you knew you had a problem. Were you trying to fix it, or you just didn't care?
I loved it. I loved it. I loved winning a football game. I loved that last second field goal that went through the uprights. I did not like the last second field goal that bounced off the crossbar or off one of the and bounced out. I did not like that. I did
It's like
not
having a
like,
bad high.
yeah, I did not like the touchdowns. And all of a sudden, oh, there's a flag, holding. Okay. I didn't like it. I had 3 televisions in the house. I got married. I married a 22-year-old girl. It took us 6 months to get me into Gamblers Anonymous. She said, where do you want to go on your honeymoon? Any place that there's gambling. So we went to the Bahamas. Any place where there's gambling. That's where I want to go. I convinced her to let me hold the wedding money because they're naive and we're very cunning. Let me hold the wedding money. It took me 6 months to lose all the wedding money, all the engagement money. We lived in an $85, this 1970, so it's not, again, it's not the same. We lived in a slum, an $85 a month apartment, where for every dollar you paid in rent, you got a cockroach. How wonderful was that?
Does not sound like a wonderful thing.
Oh, it gets better. It gets better. That if we lived in the 3rd floor, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. We lived in the 3rd floor, and it was a building where people would piss in the elevators. And if anyone would come visit me, come visit her, I would have to take a can of Lysol or Glade or whatever it was at that time, and spray the elevator, so they wouldn't be subjected to riding up 2 flights of stairs in a slum with an elevator that smelled like piss. So these are the depths that this took me to. I remember coming home December 7th, 1970, 51 years ago. And she said to me, we're going to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting tonight. Now, the usual thing is bullshit. I'm not baloney. I'm not going there. Those guys are sick people. I could stop this anytime I want. Okay, I'm not as sick as they are. I don't want to go. Or that's the usual response you're going to get. My response was, okay. Now, she called the hotline. She cried for 20 minutes. And I know the guy he's a friend of mine. He has 58 years he hasn't gambled, the longest of anyone in the world. She cried for 20 minutes to this guy who she doesn't know until she could say, my name is Janet. How painful is that to hear? My name is Janet. And I went in. They ask you 20 questions, 26 years of age. There's nobody 26 years of age back in the day. There were no women in Gamblers Anonymous back in the day. There were none. It's like finding a pearl in an oyster to find a woman in Gamblers Anonymous. But now, through the invention of casinos, we are full of women in the group, but they're not. It's not like I don't want to get misogyny. I don't want to say it. Okay, I don't want to say it. But back in the day, they didn't kiss you. They didn't hug you if you relapsed. They didn't say, that's okay, you'll do it better this time. They put you up against the wall. That's what they did. Oh, meanwhile, your wife is crying in the other room, but you don't give a damn about that. They put you up against the room, up against the wall. I said, empty your pockets. Empty your pockets. They took all the money out of your pocket. Got any credit cards? Now, 1970, you guys probably don't even know what Unicard is. Unicard was before MasterCard, Carte Blanche, and all these other things that people had, these cards, before MasterCard and Visa and all this other stuff. Give me your credit cards, because credit cards were money.
Yep.
And then when the wife came out, and she was all, her eyes were all bloodshot from crying what I did to her, they gave her all the money, all my money. That's gambling money. That's holding money. How could you take that from me? I have to pay somebody with that. There's a last name with a vowel, so to say.
It's like it's the same exact thing as someone finding your partner's stash of drugs and then giving it to someone else to say no more. It must have been I don't know, did you get a lot? For me, I feel like I would get a lot of anxiety if it happened so quickly to me like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was convinced I'm going to stop, because the next day, well, they would all say, kid, you'll never make it. Kid, you'll never make it. Because we didn't have doctors in there. We didn't have lawyers. We didn't have these fancy people. We had people who have to bum a ride, take a subway, take a bus, or walk to a meeting. I go to meetings in Florida. These guys drive up with Mercedeses. One guy has a Lexus, not a Lexus, what's the one? The Tesla. We're right in the parking lot. And he says to me, watch this. And he got his phone like this. He gets his phone out and he clicks a couple things. And all of a sudden, I hear a car start. And the car is coming towards us. That's the car that this guy has. Okay, we didn't have that. I had a hoop. They call it, the words a hoopty, a hoopty.
Oh yeah, I know hoopties.
Okay.
I've been a proud owner of a few hoopties in my life.
Okay, a hoopty. That's what it was. And just terrible. But now they worry about, people in recovery. Now they don't worry. They worry about tea times. So I was ready to stop.
So what was it like? Going back just a little bit, what are meetings like for someone like me? How would you describe it? Because I've done other meetings, but I've never been to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting.
Well, you're more than welcome. What they would do, you walk in, you see, well, now there's men and women. Back in the day, they were allowed smoking.
Yep.
And a lot of these guys would have cigars, a lot would have pipes, and a lot of them would have cigarettes. And my wife always knew that I was at a meeting because my eyes were burning and I came out stinking. It was all over my clothes. Now, thank God they got smart with that. So you walk in and say, hi, what's your name? Oh, say name. You have a gambling problem? You feel you have a gambling problem? Yeah. Just sit down and listen. We'll get to you. We will get to you. And they sit you in the chair. You don't know anyone in the room. And if you did, it shouldn't be a bad thing. It should be a good thing. But at that point, you wouldn't understand that. That's a good thing that you have other people that maybe that who are recovering from whatever addiction that they have. And all of a
Community
sudden,
is very important.
yeah. And all of a sudden you hear people giving their therapy and they all say, my name is so-and-so. And they use the term, I'm a compulsive gambler. That's a term that they use. And eventually they're going to call you. And there's in the book, the Gamblers Anonymous Handbook has 20 questions. And you're supposed to answer yes to it, either yes or no to at least, well, as many, get many as you want, as many as you go with what your situation. And there's 20 questions. And then and it says the most compulsive gamblers, used to say it in the top of the book, will answer yes to at least 7 of these questions. But now it's on the bottom after the 20th question on the second page. It says most compulsive gamblers will answer yes to at least 7 of these questions. Number 1, they're loaded questions. Okay, do you ever lose all your money? Yeah. You ever lose time from work or school because of gambling? Does it affect your reputation? That you often gamble until your last dollar is gone? They're all loaded questions. Okay. I have one buddy of mine, And then one of the questions is gambling, does it affect your sleeping? Does it, you have trouble sleeping?
Never thought of that. Never thought of that. So it affects your whole life.
And what the guy said is, I'm in over 40 years and I still have trouble sleeping. So what they did, where it used to be on the top of the page before they asked the first question and people would read it, they didn't want to admit that they have, nobody wants to admit that they have a problem. So what they would do, 7, 7, 7, 7. So they would make sure they were under the 7. Okay. So that's why they put it in the last thing they read it to you. Then they get you up and they say, well, get up and say, give me your first name, first initial of your last name, and whether or not you feel you are a compulsive gambler. That's how you start it. And I'm a pain in the ass and I change it. Okay. I try and change it where, in the rooms that I go to, I say, don't ask them that. If the only requirement for membership, like alcohol, is to stop drinking, and if the only requirement for membership in Gamblers Anonymous is a desire, that's the key word.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was about to say, it's not that you are sober, it's you want to get sober.
Oh, you got to get up early in the morning, Jim. You got to get up early in the morning. It's a desire to stop gambling. You could be gambling every week, but as long as you have the desire, you're welcome. And I've been talking to these people and say, I have never heard the word compulsive until I joined Gamblers Anonymous in reference to gambling. I know what a compulsive shopper is. I think a lot of people do. I have been for a couple of years in another 12-step group called Overeaters Anonymous. And to me, I was a compulsive eater. The food was there, I was going to eat it. So, and my wife, a lot of wives are compulsive shoppers, and I could be a compulsive, but not with gambling. Not with gambling. I never said to anyone, I would never say to you, Jim, I'm a compulsive gambler. Jim, I like to gamble. I have a gambling problem. So when I introduce myself, my name is Bob, and I'm a person in long-time recovery. I like that. That's powerful. For me, that's powerful to say something like that. And but then you become 3 months, you can become a trusted servant and sit in the front of the room. How great is that? But when I first came in, see those ashtrays? Go in the kitchen after the meeting and clean them, because I was the low man on the totem pole. And they used to have breaks. They used to have 3-hour meetings, not these hour meetings, 3-hour meetings with a break. And they would serve coffee and donuts or cake. And if it was an anniversary, they had a big anniversary cake for everybody. But you got to get milk, you got to get sugar, you got to get knives, forks, spoons, all that stuff. And they didn't have a Keurig there. They didn't have a Mr. Proctor Silas. They didn't have a Mr. Coffee. They had these big silver things.
Oh, I know. They had one in my rehab, because they had to make coffee for everybody in the morning.
How do you do it? You got to put the whole coffee in there. You got to add a certain amount of water. It starts percolating. And that was the coffee. And then the better part is when the meeting is over, you're low man on the totem pole. You have to clean it. So you got to deal with the coffee grinds. You got to deal with the excess coffee, wash out the pot. It's like I was in the army, wash out the pot and get it and put it away in a cabinet, because we had our own cabinet in the church that we're meeting in, and put it there so be ready for next week. I couldn't wait till the next person came in. Then they were low man on the totem pole. I could move up a little bit and not have to do that stuff. But they taught me, if you have that job, it was a way of knowing that you're going to be at the meeting next week.
This is true. One of the things I do with Addicts Anonymous is, once you join the group, if you want to get involved, I immediately try to get people involved. Like, I'll create little jobs for you. Like I have a social media team, I have a graphic designer, and it just keeps people busy. Like those are their trust, that those is what they're doing to become servants, if that's the word you want to use. Um,
Sure.
yeah, like I have someone that's helping me with the videos that's going to help me produce them and things like that.
Beautiful. I mean, a lot of people, you could look at it and say, here's an alcohol problem. A lot of people you could look at, my son included, here's a drug problem. The gamblers can't tell. I mean, you go to a casino and you look at these guys wearing a diaper to go to a casino so they don't have to leave the machine and take a crap in their pants or pee in their pants, because if they left that machine, the next person in that machine is going to hit the jackpot. Okay? Now, they have something called self-exclusion, where you can go into a casino. You could sign papers that you were excluded, some for all the casinos in states, that you were excluded from going in. They take your picture. They make you sign a piece of paper. And if you were caught in the casino, they can arrest you for trespassing. And a lot of our members have put on this, they go in anyway, but a lot of them put on disguises, put a hat on.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I've heard of the self-exclusion. I never heard it called that, but I have, it was actually a Native American woman on a reservation who she is a gambler, and that's her issue as well. And she told me same thing. I was kind of shocked that they can arrest you, but that's
Well,
a
you
good
sign the trespassing thing. You will be arrested for trespassing, and you agree to it. But Jim, the key here is that if you're lucky or unlucky enough, to win a jackpot, a couple $1,000s or more, whatever it is, you win a jackpot, they don't pay you in quarters anymore. They give you a slip. And if it's over, I think $600, whatever the threshold is, you have to sign a piece of paper for taxes. But if you are on the exclusion list, you will not get paid. Did you know that one?
No, I did not know that one.
You will not. You are on an exclusion list, and they check it. And you have to sign, for the tax reasons, you have to sign a piece of paper. And if your name comes up, sorry, they call the security. They escort you out of the casino, and the money that you thought you won, not going to happen. You're not going to get it. But they still go back because they need the action, even knowing that this will happen to them. That's when the disease takes over you. That's when you're in the dream world of a problem gambler. And maybe the fog is not lifted yet. My 51 years of coming to meetings. That's what, and why do I still come to meetings? Not because I'm going to gamble, to mentor people, to give the example. In 51 years, I've never seen someone get a little bit of recovery, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half, leave the room, stop getting complacent, stop coming to meetings. I've never seen that person come into the room, come through those swinging doors that swing both ways. We all know that. And say, hi, fellas, I'm so-and-so. Life is great. I'm gambling. I got all the money in the world. My wife is so happy. She's never been happy in her life. I put my kids through college. We're all driving new cars. They're doing well. They're doing well. My family's together. We go on vacations. And I'm gambling. Everyone is so happy. In 51, they come back with their tails between their legs. In 51 years, no one ever came back and said something like that. So if your brain is working right, you say, well, why would it be different for me? Why? Why would I start drinking again? Why would I start using drugs again? Why would I do that? When I hear what's going to happen to me, it's not going to be different for me. It never was different. Can I tell the story about my son?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell a story about yourself. I would love to hear it.
Okay, now this one's a tough story. And sometimes I get emotional with it, but I should be able to hold it together today.
All right, you take your time with it. Take your time with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. My son, always a good athlete, always, I coach in Little League, coach him in basketball, my daughter too, and she was an athlete. But my son got involved with drugs, started probably smoking pot at 15 in high school. And he went to a college in New York called Oneonta. Oneonta.
I've heard of that college. Yeah, as you know, I'm from New Jersey. I've heard of Oneonta.
The nickname for Oneonta is Stonyonta, for obvious reasons. And my son became a drug dealer up in Oneonta, and a drug user, and a woman chaser. They got one of these renegade fraternities called Sammy. Were not even allowed on campus because they were renegades. And my son got involved with, they graduated. They talk about the gateway drug. He went from pot to pills to heroin. And my
How
son
long was it? Quickly, or did he start with one for a while, or was
he started with pot, and he used to work with me. He used to work with me in the truck. I was a truck driver, with a delivery service. And 2 minutes after he gets in the car or the truck, he's sleeping, he's dribbling, and he's curled up. And I didn't know anything about heroin. I thought heroin, I didn't know anything about it. And when we found out he was a heroin user, they were just horrible, absolutely horrible. And my wife at the time, actually my ex-wife, and I would go to these family meetings for parents who have children who are involved. And he was continuing to use, and he was assessed. Whether you have a doctor, we have his counselor and us in there, and said he has to go away. He has to go away, and he has to go away now because he is at risk. I mean, you don't want to hear that your son is at risk. Because my son put a gun to his head. He wanted to end it. It just got too much for him. He called for work. He worked with me. I did a moving company. He said, Dad, I can't go to work. I don't feel well. Because he was dope sick. And I had to do 2 moving jobs by myself. Wasn't happy about it. So when they tell you at the place, well, we're going to send him to a good hospital. You can't take a half Jewish kid from Long Island. That's my accent. The people don't know a New York accent, even though I'm not in New York anymore. It's a great hospital. They have a great program. They have great doctors. And it's expensive. And they don't take insurance. But funerals are expensive too. And if you have any blood, any warm red blood or blue blood running through your veins, when they tell you that funerals are expensive too, you better wake up. And they said, if you pay it in advance before he goes, you have 3 days to pay it for a discount. For 4 months, it's $30,000. $30,000 in probably 2008.
And this is for rehab.
For rehab for 4 months.
That's one of the things that I'm writing a book for our group, and one of the things I was examining is stuff like that. And one of the things that hold a lot of people back from getting the help they need is it's not, most people can't just go, oh yeah, no problem, not an issue. Like me personally, that was not an option. But I had a DUI when I was 27. The only good thing that ever came of it is there was a program in New Jersey that if you've had a DUI or anything like that in the past, they will pay for your rehab. So my $30,000 or whatever the hell they charge, because it is a lot. You know how it is to live in Jersey and New York.
Mhm.
It was paid by the state.
That's terrific. I think every state should have that. Every
Yeah,
state
I
should
got
have it.
lucky. Because I couldn't do it alone. I was on booze and pills, specifically also Klonopin. So Klonopin and alcohol are two of the things you can actually die from withdrawal.
Mhm. I remember him sitting in there when he was assessed. You know the look when they had the hood over their head, the hoodie
Oh yeah.
with the hood
Oh
over
yeah.
their head? That was the look like, I don't want to be here. Okay, I'm not listening. Finally, he said he would go. He would go. He would go to Mississippi the next morning. And I was not married to his mother at the time, still not married to her, but they get in the car to go home. He says, Mom, you have to take me to my dealer. And she's looking, to your dealer for what? He said, if you want me to go, I have to buy some heroin. And she gave him the money because he was broke. She gave him the money to buy the heroin. Because I guess you had to take 2 planes from LaGuardia, one to North Carolina and one to Mississippi. And the last thing they want to do is to go through with withdrawals on the plane. That is the last thing they want to do. And she took him to get more heroin. But it didn't matter. You had to get him on that plane. You had to get him on that plane. And then they switch planes. I hope they make the switch. And they put him on a little commuter plane and they pick him up with the druggy buggy. I like to call it the druggy buggy.
I never heard that. Druggy
You
buggy.
never heard that either?
Yeah.
That these guys come, and I guess they're workers or ex people who had an addiction. I don't like the word addict. And they would pick up, and here's a kid, a young 28-year-old kid coming in with a suitcase, or 26, whatever he was, coming in with a suitcase, a little suitcase. How do they know it's him? How do they know? They know. They know. So when I try and get the message to the other group and the people in Gamblers Anonymous, I would say, I was in 37, 38 years when this happened, but I had recovery and I had absence. And I would say, how many of you people here sitting in this room or on the Zoom room, whatever, if you had a chance, if you were still gambling and you had a chance to save your child's life by coming up with $30,000 in 3 days, and you're still gambling, how many of you could do it? And if you're one of the ones who could do it, right after I finish speaking, you put up your hand and you share that you could do it. To this day, no one ever put up their hand and shared that they could do it. So why do I keep doing what I do in the program, with the bracelets and everything, and the mentoring people and sponsoring people and stuff? Because not only did the program save my life, but it saved my son's life. Because he would be dead. And this Addicts Anonymous, I'm speaking as a parent now. You know, I could be on both sides of the fence as someone had a problem and someone whose child had a problem. So I could be on both sides of the fence. And sometimes I've been on the fence, and that fence had spikes, and those spikes up your ass don't feel very good. Okay? I've been on both sides of it. So I know what it's like. And for the people out there having a problem, no parent, and again, I'm speaking as a parent now, no parent would ever want to receive that phone call. That is the worst thing that you could ever do to your parents, that they would get that phone call that Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, I'm sorry to tell you, your son overdosed and we couldn't save him. That is the horror, that when they're in people are in active addiction, that we live with every single day. And it's not fun.
Not fun at all. I've done a lot of interviews, and a lot of people reach out to me for other stuff. And I've met, I think so far, two mothers that had a Narcan their son, that they found him dead. One girl, the mother was sleeping, and thank God the kid's girlfriend was there. She couldn't get him up, so she ran to the mother. This is how bad it was. The mother had Narcan on the side of her bed. That's how ready she was. She got up, she grabbed it, she Narcaned him, and they brought him back to life, thank God. But there's too many stories of the ones, like you said, that don't come back, and you got to make that call to a parent. You know,
And the sad part is 3 days later, same thing. Overdose. I've been to many funerals where I see a 22, 24, 26-year-old child, whether boy or girl, open casket. And it's like looking at an angel. And there's all their school friends and pass by and crying and stuff like that. And I always say, let their deaths not be in vain. And they don't think it could happen to them, it could happen to them. But now we're talking about gambling and stuff. Okay. I just want a little side note that I know what's going on. Believe me, I know. My brother killed himself. Okay, he killed himself. It's not a good thing. Not at all. And he was a big heroin guy. Well, he was an importer of hashish, and he killed himself. But that's.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but this is what happens. Okay, this is what happens, and not good, not good. But it's therefore, but the grace of God go I. And I'm not a God person. I'm a spiritual person. Oh God, because of God. I'm not a God person. I don't want to go into that tangent and say, well, God, I couldn't do this without God and all this stuff. I believe maybe in the high power, but not God. Where was God for the other 20 years? I was gambling. Where was he? All of a sudden, he showed up and he said, okay, you're not going to gamble anymore. It doesn't work like that. Okay. He's not the little guy up there. But there are 50 billion people in this country, in this world, and he's not the little guy up there watching over me. Am I going to bet on the football game today? It's not happening. It's not happening. The only thing that saved me is I went into a program. I went into, addiction is the only war that you have to surrender to win. What a great statement that is. I surrender to this, right?
It's like defeat. I came up with a saying that we all must come to the admission of defeat before we can defeat anything ourselves.
Well, there it is. When they're ready to hear it, when they're ready to hear the message, they'll be ready to stop. And some people, it goes in this year, it goes in this year. Take the cotton, what do they say? Take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. That's what they tell you to do.
Great saying. Never heard that one.
You never heard that one? Take the cotton out of your ear and
put it in your mouth.
Put it in your mouth. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
Listen twice as much. So, but I had to give service. I couldn't just, I paid for my seat, as many people have. I paid for my seat in that room. I had to give service. And I did.
That was the next thing I was going to say. Because it has to ties into service. So you are a real long-term sobriety guy, like probably out of your category, you're one of the top guys in the country for as long as the length of your sobriety. Well, tell us about that.
Well, when I was chairman of the New York Intergroup, that was for 4 years. It was the biggest intergroup in the world. I did that for 4 years. And 1 year as assistant chairman before that. And there are 50 people have 51 years of abstinence. Okay, there are in the whole world 51 years in the whole world. Right now I'm number 14, and one guy just found out has brain cancer, which is terrible. He has like 56 years. So I'm number 14 in the whole world, but this is not an ego thing. I still get up the same way anybody else gets up. I still go to the bathroom as anybody else does. I'm a regular guy. I don't let that get to me. 2 months ago, I had a hip replacement. At 77, in March, I had something called pulmonary embolisms. which are blood clots in your lungs, and I almost
Yep.
died.
That's very dangerous. I've heard of that.
Right? And they're in the hospital for a few days. They give you something called heparin, which is a blood thinner. That was in March. In August, they came back. I was in the hospital again. I'm on some little pill over here called Eliquis. Eliquis is a blood thinner. I'm on that for the rest of my life, two times a day. And November 9th, I had my hip replaced because my hip failed. And you don't know what pain is till you feel this thing. I had to go. I could say the now. I'll give the shortened version because I had to wait like 5-6 weeks till I could get an appointment with the surgeon to, for the operation to get to the hospital. And I was on Oxy 10s. I'm sure people, it's not Oxy. That's something you put in your washing machine. But I think people know what I'm talking about when I say Oxy
Cotton. Yeah, they know.
I have never taken a pain pill in my life. I've never been under the knife in my life. And I know they were 10 milligrams. I had to deal with this pain. And I figured, okay, I'm going to break them in half. I'm going to take 5 milligrams 3 times a day. And everyone's saying, you're going to become addicted. You're going to become addicted to these pills. I said, look, without these pills, I couldn't make it for 5-6 weeks. I am taking them as prescribed because they're time-release pills. I am not crushing them and snorting them. And when they operated, I took it maybe a week after the operation because the pain was really great. I've not used them since. They're locked away in the drawer over here. Not used them. So maybe I know what this stuff could do to you, so I don't do it. But
well, I believe anything that's taken prescribed, and you're honestly, if you're lying. The only person that truly knows if you're lying about are you abusing them is yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
well, my girlfriend is, she's like Nurse Ratched. When One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, whoever saw that movie.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, she was the nurse and she was a bitch. She was a biatch. And how she treated these guys and stuff. But she took care of me. She's going to have her knee replaced in April. And I'm going to take care of her the same way she took care of me. So I'm looking forward to that. But I've been married, personal thing, I've been married 3 times. I have been divorced 3 times. 3 times without
Was it due to your addiction?
No, nope. Well, the first one I did damage. I took her out of a beautiful home, and I put her into the slum apartment, and I buried all the money and stuff like that. And the second one, I have 2 wonderful children with. Okay, my son is my qualifier in the other group. I don't call my addict. I don't like that word addict. I really don't like it. Well, in reference to my son, he was my son before he used drugs. He was my son while he was using drugs, and he is my son after he stopped using drugs.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people mention that because obviously the name of our group is Addicts Anonymous. But I read this great saying where someone said we need to actually just redefine the word. We need to make it where it doesn't have. The problem is it's one of the first words I use, so it comes with a stigma. Like the second, if you say, "Oh, I'm an addict," it makes you sound like there's now something wrong with you, versus if you say to someone, "I have like a substance use disorder," and that's how I handle it. Because that's
he'll be 40 years old next April. He's getting married in May. He just bought a house for $411,000. I don't know if that's big money now or not big money, but it was big money when I was around. I never bought a house for $411,000. And I never see on the other program, I belong to Naranon, as people know, which is the sister group, like Al-Anon's a sister group, or Addicts Anon, whatever, it's a sister group. And I never say, and a lot of women do, I sit on a room with 40 people. 39 of them are women. I'm the only guy there.
Mm.
But that's another story for another time. And I never say my addict. Like, it's not my TV, it's not my stereo, it's not my kitchen, it's not my bedroom, it's not a possession. He's my son. And he qualifies me to be here in these rooms. And I like saying he's my son. My son is the reason why I'm here. And a lot of times I'll tell them, why do you keep coming to meetings? Why do you keep coming? Don't you have anything better to do? Yeah, I got things better to do. I'm captain of a tennis team. I went down. I'm going to be playing a little bit tomorrow. I'm not ready to play yet. Why do you keep coming? Because of everyone in AA who did 2 years and just disappeared, and you walked in there, what the hell am I doing here? Either people are drinking, the people in here 2 years, nobody has any long-term time recovery. And I like to say that to the rooms, addiction brought me to the rooms. But life keeps me in these rooms. It makes sense to me. Life keeps me here. That's why you have 12 steps of recovery, because it teaches you how to talk to people. It teaches you how to react to people. It teaches you to be a better person. It teaches you to be powerless. It teaches you to give back, make amends. And my favorite step is step 12. And in the GA program, it says, after having made an effort to practice all these principles in your daily affairs, you try to carry the message to other compulsive gamblers. And that's what you do by doing things like this and setting the example that it can be done. That's why I go to meetings. I'm not gambling tomorrow. I'm Bracelet Bob. Can I tell the story about Bracelet Bob?
No.
Can I?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm listening. I love listening to stories.
I'm known in the other program, a bunch of other programs, Bracelet Bob. I'm also the Bob Father. They call me the Bob Father.
The Bob Father. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'd say the Bob Father. I started probably 4 years ago. I had an idea, of having a bracelet that says 1 day at a time. 1 day at a time. This is how this program works. This is how any 12-step program works. You're not going to get a year after your first week. You accumulate the days, the weeks, the months, and the years, and you don't stop. So 1 day at a time bracelets. The blue blade bracelets, and the guys all know what the bracelets are. I've given out, probably sent out around the world, probably 4,000 bracelets. I buy 1,300 at a time, probably it's more than 4,000. And they're giving out for free. Anybody who wants them, they're giving out for free. I got groups that buy them. They got 20 guys in my group. We want to show unity. And how you show unity is everyone is wearing, for the meet, they're wearing a bracelet that says 1 day at a time. And we have some called trustees. And I guess all groups have trustees, or the bigger groups have trustees. They didn't like it. They did not like it. Because those morons thought that a bracelet is to be treated like a piece of literature and it has to be approved. I said, a bracelet is a bracelet. It's not a piece of literature. And it took me 3 years of fighting to get these approved. That is approved, appropriate. Some of the rooms, they have signs in the front of the room, 1 day at a time, when it's see here, when you leave here, let it stay here, easy does it, all these things. They have these pieces of paper that you put in front of the room. It'd be okay to give those out, those out for the new person, but not the bracelet. I said, it says the same thing. It's the same thing. What's the problem? So we had agreed that we would give it out before the meeting started or after the meeting closed with the serenity prayer. And I didn't like it, but that's another story. We got it approved as appropriate literature and give them out to anybody. So that was idea number one that Bracelet Bob had. Now I have another idea. When someone accomplishes abstinence for at least 1 year and goes to meetings, you have to go to meetings. And if you have not done whatever addiction you're doing for 1 year, have a bracelet that says, I am a miracle. I am a miracle. And they wear that. And I got people call me. I got a woman called me from Alaska today to send her an I am a miracle bracelet. January 2nd was a 1 year anniversary. And it took them more than 1 year to make it. So I will mail it out tomorrow.
And it's a great reminder. That's why on the bracelets I give out, I just put, you can do this, because just in case you're ever in a moment of desperation, you can kind of look at that and say to yourself, I could do this, get yourself through it.
And now I have a new one, which I came up with about 2-3 months ago. I ordered 200 and I probably have about 40 left. And the color for addiction for the bracelets is purple. That's the color again. This bracelet has the most powerful statement. It says, I am done.
That's a good one.
I am done. And with the people with the drugs, the I am done is for the spouses of the people using drugs. They're done with the bullshit. They're done with the lies. They're done with what these people, the sexual abuse, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse that these addicts are doing for them. So they could wear it. And the people who are using these substances, when they have their recovery and they don't want to use it anymore, they have a bracelet that says, I am done. And I also have one. Can I say the F word?
You could drop an F-bomb, absolutely.
Okay. I have 2 bracelets. One says in capital, black bracelet with white lettering. It says fuck meth. And I have another bracelet that says fuck heroin.
Those are the 2 big things in the country.
And I got people call me up. Could you make one F fentanyl? So I said, look, I can't do everything. They want cocaine. They want this. That costs me money. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't do all that stuff. And if people, they wear them. Even if you don't wear them, even if you put the 1 day at a time on your nightstand, you want to keep your anonymity. I've been in so many restaurants and I see a woman serving me and she got spikes all over her face. She got tattoos all over her arms. And I say to her, are you in a program? Are you in a 12-step program? And she said, yes. Then she said the dumb thing, how do you know? Well, I think we know how we know. And I said, would you like this bracelet? And I take the bracelet right off my arm, right off my wrist. Would you like this? It says 1 day at a time. And they say, oh, I don't want to take your bracelet. I said, that's okay. I have plenty more. And they put it on. And you know what they do? They give me a hug. They give me a hug because someone cares and someone recognizes it and give them the hope that they could do it.
Absolutely.
This is what my life is about. Okay, my life is about helping people. This is my life about carrying a message of hope to people, not by words, by example.
Yeah, I was going to show you something pretty cool. If you look, we got our own sobriety chip. It says the same thing. These are pretty cool also, because the one thing I learned kidding around, I say, is addicts love their chips. They love collecting those things.
And you know why I could never do that? I could never use that.
Because you're a gambler.
It looks too much like a poker chip.
Yep. Because you get them I get them from the same company that also does poker chips.
Right.
That's where my idea came from for the bracelets. Is I mentioned that woman who is a Native American gambler on the reservation. She said keychains, but when I looked it up, the keychains were kind of expensive, so I went with bracelets.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I'm going to tell you what to really get. You get them a lot cheaper than you're paying for them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after.
Oh, for sure. But that's my life. I mean, I've been in a relationship with this woman now over 5 years. 5 years.
It's a long
She knows
time.
nothing. Well, she knows nothing about. I would always tell the people in the program that the young guys, mostly young guys who have young children in the program and are either addicted to drugs or addicted to gambling. And the message I have for them, my kids never saw me. I've been in the program long. My kid, one's 39, one's 33, my daughter's 33. They never saw their father as a problem gambler. Okay. And I say to these young guys, and this is not as a member, this is like a grandpa, like a father. I said, do you know something? See that little baby? How high or how much you have to win to lose that? Because you're going to lose it. And I said, you have something that not many people have. Those young children do not ever have to know you as a problem gambler or someone using drugs. How high do you have to get to give that up? How much money do you have to try to win to give that up? Daddy, let's have a catch. Daddy, let's go to the park. Daddy, could you coach my little league team? Get away from me. I don't have time. Get away from the television set. Mommy, where's Daddy? Where's Daddy, Mommy? No, it's not worth it. Trust me, it's not worth it.
You got to say like what your bracelets say. You need to say, I am done.
I am done. I am done. I am done paying bookmakers. I am done paying charlatans. I am done paying banks. I am done paying finance companies. I am done paying relatives. I am done paying back money that I stole. Okay, I am done. I am done. I see it. I have a disease. I have a disease of addiction. If I had cancer, what's the doctor going to tell me? Doctor's going to tell me you have to go for treatment. The treatment is chemotherapy. The treatment is radiation. The treatment is coming in every 6 months and getting the PET scans and getting well and changing your diet. That's what the doctor's going to tell me if you want to live. I'm not going to fight him. If I have diabetes, guess what? That's a disease too.
They might take insulin, but we got to go to our meetings.
I got to prick my finger. I got to prick my finger. I got to watch my sugar. I got to do, maybe take pills, whatever I have to do. It's a disease. Well, guess what? Addiction is a disease too. And the best treatment for addiction is to go to meetings and do not feed into your addiction. Stop whatever you're doing and you will recover. So if you have cancer, you're not going to tell the doctor, well, I'm not going to go for it. I'm just going to die. And insulin, I'll just eat all the ice cream I want. I love Haagen-Dazs. I'll eat all the shit I want. And I'll eat all the candy I want and everything like that. And I'll be 500 pounds or start amputating parts of my body because I don't want to go for treatment. Well, if you say you don't want to go to meetings, you have an addiction, you're saying the same thing. The same thing. I'd rather die and destroy my family along with it. So I don't play games with this program. I really don't. Of all the addictions, all of them, the one that has the most suicides is gamblers. No suicide, problem gambling. You could look at an alcoholic, most of them, you get, oh, this guy drinking, whether he's functional, he's not functional, he's a drop down drunk, okay? Or you could look at someone messed up with the drugs and this guy's effed up and stuff like that. A gambler, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell unless you go to a casino and you see these people sitting there. It's hard to tell. So
Yeah.
I'm Bob, a person in long time recovery who is not any better than anyone else. That's who I am. That's what I am.
That's great. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. The
It's been
last question I'm going to have.
been my pleasure.
Yeah,
Really.
super cool, man. And my last question is, I know you've given a lot of advice, but is there anything else you want to give to any advice you want to give to any type of person that's, in recovery right now? Any message you want to get across?
Don't fight it. And how we close the meetings after the serenity prayer is keep coming back because it works if you work it. So work it, you're worth it, and don't be alone. Pick up the phone. How great is that?
That's great advice. Couldn't said it any better than
I'm
myself.
going to say it again. It works if you work it. So work it. You're worth it. And don't be alone. Pick up the phone. I just fight forth with somebody on one of these. I just try and fight with these people. I said, don't call me after you go back to gambling. Don't call me after, because after I cannot do anything. Call me before you gamble, or you have an urge, or you have a bad thought, or whatever you're having a heart. Call me before. I will pick up the phone. But now with the Zoom and everyone's all over the world, it's not like a local meeting where one of your buddies from the phone list calls you up and says, come on, let's meet for coffee. And you sit down to 2 in the morning in a diner in New Jersey and you have coffee with someone and you calm them the F down. That's how it works, okay? But if you don't use the tools of the program, if you don't read the literature, if you don't try, I don't believe in writing the steps. I'm not a write the steps guy. I believe in living the steps, okay? I believe in living the steps to the best of your ability. And if you don't use the tools in your program, in your toolbox, you go into the room, we can give you a toolbox, the literature, sponsorship, the steps, meetings, service, they're all part of the toolbox. Use them. Because if you see somebody brings out a brand new tool, it's bright and shiny like you get at Home Depot, it's bright and shiny, it means you haven't used it. That's not good. That's not good. So gotta go to meetings. If you don't go to meetings, you do it. Look at Zoom meetings. I could go on meetings every single day, every hour of the day.
Yeah, you could always find one.
I don't have to worry about it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I want to just appreciate it for everyone that's watching or listening. For YouTube, definitely subscribe to us, give us a like. We're also available on the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, Breaker. So there's a bunch of platforms. Check us out there. And if you go on iTunes, give us a like there as well. I just wanted to say one last time, thank you to Bob F. And till next time, we will see you then.
Thank you.